So what about breaking the law? Let's talk about the law and the breaking thereof. Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are not fast food. And Dr. Pepper is not energy drink. And Dr. Pepper is also, and 5 Hour Energy is also not an energy drink. So, when you're talking about laws and breaking them, you're talking about something. It's a difficult thing to talk about. That's why lawyers get paid a lot of money, because nobody knows what the fuck they're saying. They barely know what they're saying. They're called liars. Lawyers, liars. That's not unintentional. So, basically, I've done this thing with myself, this back and forth, oh, I'm gonna do this for such and so period of days, and I've had all levels of success and failure in the times that I've done it. Many times I've followed the thing for however many days perfectly without having to do any lawyering or semantics or word acrobatics or anything like that. Some of the times I just blatantly fail, and fail by the letter of the law, even without doing acrobatics, and just admit that I failed. And of course then I'll say, well, that was a stupid idea in the first place, right? I go, why would I need to quit these things in the first place? I enjoy these things, right? So whatever path you actually end up taking is the one that you must defend. Otherwise, you're just supporting the Catholic Church. There's lots of restructuring happening. There's, you know, the U.S. corporation is going through a reorg. The USA Corporation is going through a reorg. USA Gymnastics is going through a reorg. Pacific Gas and Electric is going through a reorg. Natural wildfires are helping with the reorg. Natural wildfires. I don't know why I say that. Like I'm telling a big secret, you know. There's lots of reorganization happening here in the realm, and it's a pretty good show. I haven't had a Dr. Pepper in something like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 months. And the only reason I'm having this Dr. Pepper is because I decided that for 15 days I was not gonna partake of snooze, energy drinks, or fast food, right? Now, the only thing I'm trying to say is that every time you say something to yourself, you're setting up some laws. Even if you say, I would like to do such and so, you're setting up some form of law, some form of internal law. You're setting up some form of guideline for your own self. And depending on how sneaky you are, are, you're gonna break your own rules. Almost every time this happens, at least with me. I end up getting pissed off that I put myself in some sort of constriction, and then I end up breaking the rule in a way that's suitable to me, right? And it's a fun game that we play, and it's the same game that's being played everywhere. That's the whole game of language, of concepts. We say blah blah blah. You know, this is law. You know, maybe we'll put it on some stones. You know, we'll write it down in stone, inscribe it on these rocks, and then, you know, we'll say these rocks are holy, and then make everybody think you can't do those things for however long. You know, for thousands of years maybe. Or else you'll do some voodoo over the words and somehow get the people magnetically attracted to them, or pushed away via fear, however you do it, however the black magicians do it. You entrain them somehow, but that's what the fun of it is it's like you're setting up little sticks in the riverbed. You're putting a stick, and you're putting a flag on top of the stick, and you're saying, my name is Gary, I am doing such and so. And then you're hoping that the way the river flows around that stick is going to make you feel good somehow. And very more than likely the river is just going to not even know that the stick exists, and just eventually uproot it, and the stick is going to go flying down the river along with the rest of the shit that's also flying down the river. That's usually somewhat how those plans go, but we still like doing them because we don't like the idea that we are simply afloat in this vast river and just floating to nowhere, or we don't know to where. Now here, right? That's much more comforting. But we don't like that, so we like to say, well, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going. I'm going, you know, toward this 15 days of abstinence from these 3 items. But then if I don't like it, then I can reorganize and find loopholes in the self-inflicted law. And it's, you know, it's fun, it's exciting, it's something to do, it's whatever it is. It's just that when you have the whole, you know, the whole collective under some arbitrary set of words, and you've come out of it and you're like, oh, all of these words mean the same thing and they don't mean anything, and it's arbitrary, and it's like, again, do I like blue better or black, or do I like pink, or do I like unicorns that poop rainbows? Like, they're all exactly the same, and people should be able to like what they want. But we're playing some very special kind of game here, which has all of the peoples of the land lining up like magnets, and they all, some giant magnet is just flying around, and all the people are doing, and they just point toward it, wherever it's at. You don't even need to tell them where it's at. That's how deep the subconscious programming is going. So they just follow the magnets. Follow the magnets. I just had 2 guys, one bringing him to the SFO from like Berkeley area, and then another guy from SFO to where I'm exiting, which is like Fremont, California, during rush hour. And both of the conversations were, at least in small part, talking about Trump. And in both of them, I simply talked how I talk, and they changed what they were saying based on what I was saying. You know, like if someone starts talking to me about anything, and they're like displaying their boxes in which their mind is housed, then I'm usually sitting there with my little pry tool and like popping the box open, and I'm like whispering to the part of them that's stuck in there, like, hey man, like, come on, And then once they've kind of like snuck out of that, then I'll talk to them, you know, the larger part that has reestablished itself outside of that particular constraint. The first kid, he was saying he's a photographer for what's it called, Sierra Club. Is that a thing? Sierra Club? Sierra something. And it's like an environmental advocacy group that basically. And so I asked him, you know, so I was like, so basically you were at war with the corporatocracy. And yeah, he kind of laughed at that a little bit, but then he started talking more about what he was doing, and of course the bipartisan, the duality thing comes in with Republican Democrat, and he's talking about Trump, and it's just interesting to hear people talk about politicians because they want to say something about them, but it's difficult to, if you've been in the boxes for so long, it's difficult to talk about Republicans and Democrats and people who are falling underneath those categories equally, like without being mad at one side or the other. So this kid at some point was saying something like, have you ever had a Trump supporter in here? And I was like, duh. I was thinking about it because I don't know if I have ever had a Trump supporter in there. Everyone either thinks he's insane or, you know, they think he's ridiculous, like a comic show or something. Especially the people in San Francisco who pride themselves on sort of libertarianism and very, very liberal-minded people, even though they're obviously. And I always bring this back to, whenever someone tries to argue for one side or the other, I'll just point out the obvious, you know, the obvious hypocrisy. Like, San Francisco is the most liberal, like, social, caring city in the world, supposedly, with tons of money, tech money, app money, everything money in San Francisco, and they can't handle their homeless population. They can't, like, somehow fix that. It's to me, it's ridiculous. Like, it's the most, I was telling this kid, I was like, that law that says the computational speed doubles every such and so amount of years, and that number gets smaller and smaller as you approach the singularity in sort of an exponential curve. Like, I was telling him that the rate at which hypocrisy is doubling is happening at the same rate, because they're you get talking and talking, more and more talking, and then the actual problems which you're ignoring are getting more and more, so it's like it's doing this, right? At the time at which the people look the most holy, right? Looking super holy over here, all this money is going here, and then homeless, homeless, homeless. It's like a inverse sort of relationship. And it becomes more and more hilarious, and eventually you have the top of the politics looking like the Kardashians, and it's just it's a show, essentially. But at the same time, there is depth to it. Like, at the same time, Trump is literally putting on a show on purpose to, because you have to stay with the wave effect. If you've set up this ridiculous thing, that keeps getting more and more ridiculous, you have to stay with that trend so that people don't go insane. But then you also have to be doing actual things behind the scenes, which of course are discernible if you look into it enough. You can find out, oh, this is what they're actually doing, this is what that actually means, such and so, and it's never, you know, what it looks like. But anyway, that kind of got off onto a bit of a tangent. But what this kid was saying was the Sierra Club, I think it was called the Sierra Club. Anyway, environmental advocacy, big, like, nationwide thing. He said they're making a lot of money recently off of, he was like, my main job now is to attack Trump. That's kind of how we got on the subject of Trump. But he said something interesting about Hetchy. I guess this is currently what is now a reservoir. He was saying it used to be simply a river system, and back in 1913 or early 1900s, whenever they put the dam up, and created a reservoir. He was saying this guy, John Muir, who kind of created the Sierra Club or whatever the thing is called. I could be right, could be wrong. But Muir created it, and he said he was upset because he created it too late. And Hetch Hetchy, as far as the tributary system, was not covered under that wilderness protection sort of thing that he instituted, which is essentially what are known as national parks. Somehow that escaped it, and that thing, the dam got put up, and you know, it got turned from what he was saying is nearly something as beautiful as, you know, Yosemite National Park, got turned into what is essentially like a bog or a swamp or something. And he was saying that San Francisco buys their water from, like, a decent percentage of their water, like their living water, the city's living water, from that reservoir, from the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, and they buy it from, you know, whoever, the government, whoever owns that land, at $30,000 a year. And that's been this relationship that's been going on since then, and the rate hasn't changed since the early 1900s. And as you can imagine, $30,000 a year to get a decent, you know, half of your water, if not more. Whatever he said was somewhere around that range. To get, you know, that much water for $30,000, he was saying lawmakers and whatnot, if you're comparing it to other cities, they would get their water for millions and millions of dollars from, you know, not those type of setups. So he was talking about politics in relation to the degradation of the environment through the hands of corporations, and what he was doing through photography and his Facebook. He said that Facebook was the main one that he uses for his advocacy in terms of photography. So go look Sierra Club up, I guess. I need to find the actual name of the thing. I'm probably... I think it was Sierra Club. Whatever he called it, it made me think of like REI or something, like you know, one of these companies that has seared into the minds of the consumer, like, and like Coors, you know, like you think of this company and you just think of like mountains and, you know, birds chirping and, you know, bears frolicking with butterflies and stuff like that. Anyway, so we were talking about all these things and how the, you know, how the politics are kind of the way they are, and we talked about a range of things. We talked about, got into Black Mirror. He was saying balderdash. I forget the name. Black Mirror has a choose your own adventure thing that they released recently, apparently. Bandersnatch, the Bandersnatch. Apparently you can watch this Black Mirror episode and like you're choosing outcomes, and he like threw that in at the end because I brought Black Mirror up. Black Mirror, John Muir, all these interrelated things, right? But he was like, I could tell, you know, like when you start thinking about this stuff a lot, if you haven't had your awakening, you know, where like your mind explodes into 1,000 shards or whatever, and then you somehow reintegrate, then the talk of this sort of thing is a lot. It's like a lot to handle, and I could tell, you know, at some points it was getting a little bit much, whatever we were talking about, and he had to like change the subject or think about something else. And the Black Mirror thing, he was relating it to like sort of freaking out a little bit in real life while he's sitting there making the choices, to the point to where he was saying like, yeah, we saw the credits rolling and we thought that was a trick on us, like as far as how the narratives that we picked were going. So I was like, yeah, so the mind fuck is reaching out of the TV, like into your own mind, right, and into your current reality. Like that's what horror shows are supposed to do. But at the same time, you know, he was fine with it. He's very intelligent, and he wasn't trying to hold on to any one particular thought for him. And we, like, our conversation went all over the place and back again. And you know, in the end, when I dropped him off at the airport, or near the end, I was bringing up the fact that the thing has been discussed as to what people do in societies after machines are doing most of the work, and you know, the archaic monetary system has been abolished, or capitalism, whatever you want to call this silly system we have going on. Once that's finally been transitioned out into something different, the main problem is not that, oh, you know, there's not enough work, or there's not enough jobs, or there's not enough this or that, because that's all tied to the central concept of money and how it's operating. But the new thing that comes out of it is simply there's nothing to do. Like, the survival thing is not there anymore. Humans are alive, and there's not any requirements for them to, like, the survival thing is barely existing anymore. So you need to come to creative terms with your situation and say, like, what do we do now? We're all here, everything's basically being done, and we have to sit and come up with our own minds, our own heads, something to do, right? That's enough rambling, gotta go. Peace!